Okay, so before we discuss about invariant features, okay, as for this kind of local, point features, interest point kind of features, there are two important conditions in terms of detector and descriptor. Okay, so let me ask you a question. So what is the condition for detector? So what kind of detectors are we expecting when we are detecting, this kind of point features? Detector should be very important, some important conditions, right? Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you, left. So yeah, detector should be repeatable, right? So we need repeatable detector. Okay. And the second condition for descriptor. So when we are developing descriptor, what should be the condition for descriptor? Yes, it should be distinguishable. Yes, the points independently on different frames. Yes, distinguishable, right? It means the distinguishable means we need to distinguish every feature point each other. So if they look very similar, then it is not distinguishable, right? So yes, exactly. Yeah. In the same image, we should have every point distinguishable from other points. Okay. And one more condition is reliable. Okay. So it is more about interframe. So when there is a one point, right? And in the first frame image, we have some descriptor. In the next image, for the same point, we should have very similar descriptor that is reliable for the same point across, different images. Okay, so finally, we need reliable and distinctive kind of, descriptor. So detector and descriptor are two major, parts of this kind of, invariant feature algorithm. Okay, so to satisfy this condition, we need to provide some invariance, right? So we call that kind of invariant features points as invariant features. Okay, so what kind of invariance do we expect? So mostly it should be invariant to some transformation, right? So scale, yeah. So first of all, we are expecting orientation invariance. So the feature detection and descriptor should be orientation invariant. It means, when the image is rotated, we still need to detect the same feature points. And we still need to calculate the same descriptor. Is that correct? And scale invariance. So even though we change the scale, the size of the image, the feature point should be detected again repeatedly, okay? And we also need to have reliable and distinguishable, similar descriptor value. Okay? So this, orientation and invariant and scale invariant is very important. And there is one more transformation. So when we are talking about 2D image transformation, so orientation is about rotation and scale and translation, right? But in case of translation invariant, it is very too straightforward and very easy. So it means, when the image is not rotated, not scaled, just move the position. So when we just move the position of the image without any rotation or or scaling, then the features are not changing, almost the same. So the detection and descriptor, they are all repeatable and reliable and distinctive, right? So we don't need to worry about that kind of invariance. So that's why we are normally talking about orientation invariance. Orientation is about rotation, okay, and scale invariance. Okay, so these two are very important. By the way, previously we discussed about some corner detection. So which corner detection have we studied? Last class? Yes, Harris corner. So this is one of the representative and famous corner detection algorithm, right? So in case of Harris corner algorithm, feature points. So is it orientation invariance? Yes, it's orientation invariance. So what about scale? Is it Harris scale invariance? Yes, it is not scale invariance, right? So Harris kind of corner features are orientation invariance. It means even when the image is rotated, so we still can find the same feature and we still can calculate the same, not exactly the same, but very similar descriptors. Okay, but when the scale change, it is not easy to do that. Okay, so in that sense, it was not scale invariant. So in the paper, we can see some graph and some evidence. Okay, so in that sense, on top of that, but even though Harris corner is still invariant to rotation, right? Orientation invariance, but it is not scale invariant, right? So there are some new features that are even invariant to scale. So when we are saying, normally, technically, when we are saying invariant features, it means the features are invariant for orientation or rotation and scale as well. Okay? When the feature is not scale invariant, then we are not calling even like Harris corner. Strictly speaking, we are not calling them as invariant. Okay, so generally when we say invariant, it means it includes scale invariance. Okay, so now we are studying about invariant features. It means it is rotation invariance and scale invariance. So SIFT is one of the most representative and famous algorithms for these invariant features. Okay, so let's discuss. Okay, let me skip. Okay, so these are the links. Okay, so you can download the paper and even some codes, from this link. Okay, so this very famous algorithm SIFT. The scale, the meaning of SIFT is scale invariant feature transform, right? Transformation. So this was developed by Professor David Loy of UBC in 2004. So it is became very popular, and many algorithms has been using this approach. Okay. So in this class, we are focusing on this algorithm because even though it's been more than 10 years, but still SIFT is considered as a very breakthrough and important algorithm for invariant features. So nowadays, actually, we have many other variations of SIFT. We have many different types of invariant features. Okay, but SIFT is like a kind of the root of modern invariant features. So we'll just discuss more in detail about the SIFT algorithm. Okay, so first of all, SIFT is based on the pyramid concept, pyramid image concept. So this concept of pyramid has been used for many algorithms. It is not just for SIFT, right? In many different types of algorithms, they use this kind of structure. The main advantage of pyramid is we are using different resolutions of images, right? So as you can see in this picture, so we have original image and smaller image and the smaller image. So by considering different resolution of images, we can extract more stable information. Okay, so that is the concept of pyramid. Okay, so SWIFT is using this concept, and as an extension of pyramid, they're using the concept of scale space. So scale space is more detailed algorithm to represent the concept of pyramid. Okay, so to construct a scale space, so what they're using is the Gaussian smoothing instead of physical image scaling. So instead of shrinking the size of the image itself physically, so we are applying just Gaussian smoothing. So from G1 image, the original image, and G0, Z1 is Gaussian blurred, and G2 is Gaussian smooth again, once more, and G3 more. So what we can have as a result of Gaussian smoothing is some information can be smooth, and we are losing some details, right? So this effect is almost same as when we shrink the image, we size down the image. Okay, so in terms of the amount of information, amount of detail, this kind of Gaussian smoothing has the same result of physical, resizing of the image. Okay, but by the way, by using Gaussian smoothing, we can keep the size of image, right? So we don't need to change the size. So it has lots of advantage in terms of calculation. Okay, so that is the concept of scale space we're using for SIFT feature. Okay, so basically we can place the images as a kind of stack, right? So at the bottom is the original image, and one Gaussian smoothing, another one, more and more Gaussian smoothing. So in this way, we stack the images from the original to the Gaussian smooth image, Gaussian filtered images. Okay, so this is the scale space. So basically, the SIFT calculation is all happening on this, scale space, structure. Okay, so these are the major process for SIFT algorithm. So first of all, we need to find the extrema points in the scale space image, scale space stack, right? So this is the process of detection. So based on this extrema points, we are extracting the key point. So this is actually as a result of extrema detection. So all these extrema points are considered as key points. So here, this kind of keywords like key point, extrema, it is all kind of technical, keywords. Okay. So finally, the key point means the point of the feature. Yes, important features, right? So the point. Okay. The point means the location. So it is about detection. Okay, detecting the feature. So it is related to the detector. So these two steps are happening for detector, related to detector. Okay. Yeah. Once the points are detected, so from one image, we can select the many extrema points. Okay, so it means we can detect many key points. It can be 100, 200, 300, depending on the image, right? So we can have many key points detected. Okay, once we detected all the key points, then for every key point, we are trying to calculate descriptor. So what is descriptor basically? Anybody can answer? What is descriptor? When you say this, the detector is kind of function or algorithm, right? So as a result of detector detection, we can have key points. Key points are the result of detector. Then, by the way, what is descriptor basically? Okay, so you said, which describes the location of point. By the way, when you say location of point, it may be in two-dimensional image. It can be like x, y, okay? So that is key point location, okay? It's kind of result of detector, okay? But it is not descriptor yet. Okay, it's something more. So not just x, y. X, y is normally we are not using. That is just location information, right? So that's just the key point location. On top of at every x, y, key point location, we need to calculate descriptor. So what is descriptor? Yes, which is have to find the key points, right? So basically, anybody else can answer what is descriptor? Okay, so descriptor looks like a kind of very special keyword, right? But basically, what it means is the feature vector. So actually, it is a feature vector. It means, yes. So descriptor is kind of describing the key point, right? So when you say describing, it is a little bit general, very general term, not exact, right? Not specific. It means how can we describe the key point? So as you said, key point is just x, y location. Okay. So around that location, we can gather some information about the key point. For example, very simple case is like color. Oh, this point, around this point, any point. Oh, the color around around one point is red. The other point has blue. The other point has green, right? So that the color information in this case, in this very simple example, color information, RGB, for example, can be descriptor. Oh, I want to use color RGB for every key point. Then the feature vector will have 3 dimensions, right? RGB or HSV. Okay, so that is descriptor. So you can define any description you want. Okay, but to have a good descriptor, it should be again reliable and distinguishable, right? Distinctive, right? Then we need some kind of special, algorithm to calculate the descriptor properly. Okay, so anyways, finally, descriptor is a feature vector. So its dimension can be 3 or 5, 10, 100, depending on the algorithm. Okay, so basically, this, shift feature calculation process is composed of these two parts: discrete detector and descriptor. Okay, so the first step is to detect the key points. The key point, once the key point is detected, then at that location, we try to calculate feature vector, that is descriptor. So what kind of features? So we'll study today how to calculate the feature for every key point. Is that clear? So first of all, we have to understand the detection process. So how can we select repeatable key points? Okay, so we'll discuss more in detail about that algorithm first, and then we'll move to descriptor. Okay, any question? Is it clear now? So, thank you. So, for detection, so let's discuss about the detection. So, now we have to detect key points. Again, key points means important point. Okay, so what is the important point? There may be many, different, definition. Okay, so in this case, in SIFT algorithm, it is using some kind of edge-based value to select key points. Okay, so it is using traditional, Laplacian edge detection. Okay, so edge points, for example, basically edges looks like very repeatable. So for example, even rotated or even scaled, it looks like we can see edges, right? So basically, so we are starting with some edge features. So we are looking at the edginess, right, using this Laplacian kind of stuff. By the way, as we have already discussed in Laplacian, the Harris-Corner and edge features last class. So they are not, they can be repeatable in terms of rotation, right? So they can be rotation invariant. But in case of scale, so they may not be repeatable, right? So instead of just using basic, edge features, we try to compare or consider, the edge features over different scale to make it, scale invariant. Okay. So anyway, first of all, we have to consider the edge features. So what they selected to extract that kind of edge related, not exactly edge. Okay, so a little bit different, but to calculate, edge kind of, feature in this algorithm, they selected Laplacian. Okay, so have you heard about Laplacian before? Laplacian edge detection? Yes. Okay. So what is the big difference of Laplacian from Sobel? Kind of, very simple edge detectors. What's the main difference? How can you say technically? For example, comparing with Sobel. Yes, exactly. It is Laplacian means second derivative. Okay, Sobel kind of operate, edge detections are, first derivative. It means we are subtracting the brightness just one time, but Laplacian we are subtracting twice. Okay, so it is second derivative. Okay, so Laplacian of Gaussian means, we are applying Gaussian filter first, and then we are applying Laplacian. Okay. So this kind of this graph, this red, this blue graph means the Laplacian of Gaussian. By the way, DOG, difference of Gaussian. If we subtract two different levels of Gaussian image, then the result is almost the same as Laplacian. Okay, so now I think you may already know about the concept of Gaussian, right? So let me skip about Gaussian. So we are using convolution to do Gaussian, blah, blah. Okay, let me skip. Okay. So this is Laplacian. Okay. So in case of Laplacian, it is a second derivative of Gaussian. So we apply Gaussian image to f. Here f means the image function. Okay, x comma y pixel. Okay, so we are applying Gaussian filtering as a kind of convolution. Okay, and then it means the image is kind of smooth. Okay, we are after Gaussian filtering, what we are expecting is the original image f is getting blurred, and then on top of the result of Gaussian image, we are applying this triangle. So this triangle means second derivative, the Laplacian operator. Okay. By the way, in this case, just as a simple question, why do we need to apply Gaussian first before Laplacian, the second derivative of H deflection? Why do we need to use Gaussian filtering? Exactly, yes, to avoid noise. Because for example, in case of Sobel edge detection, we are not using Gaussian filtering, right? We are just applying Sobel operator to image. By the way, in Laplacian, we need to apply Gaussian first. Why? So to avoid noise, right? Yes. The Laplacian is second derivative. It means, the gray values are subtracted twice. So the noise can be amplified. So it is too much sensitive to noise. That's why we are talking about Gaussian here. Okay. So instead of applying Gaussian to image first, we can combine the Gaussian and Laplacian first, and then apply the result mask or corner into as a filtering to the original image. So this combination of Laplacian and Gaussian is called as LOG, Laplacian of Gaussian. So its shape, the result of Laplacian of Gaussian itself is this kind of Mexican half pipe. So it can have this kind of corner value. Okay, so this can be used as a corner for convolution on the image, and then you can get some Laplacian of Gaussian image. So in this page, so if, for example, if you apply this kind of LOG corner to image, then you can get the second image. So it looks like a kind of very gray image, but the value of this image is representing the Laplacian of Gaussian LOG applied filtered image, LOG image, right? And then based on this LOG image, we can select some points and we can get this kind of edge. Okay, so this is very general process to detect edges using Laplacian LOG, Laplacian of Gaussian. Okay, so let me skip from the features. I believe you already understand this kind of concept that we have discussed already, right? Okay, so by the way, finally, anyway, so they selected LOG kind of edge not exactly edge. Okay, again, LOG itself is used to, let me show you this slide again. Okay, so between LOG image and edge image, what is in between? What do we have to do to select edge points from LOG? Do you remember the process? LOG threshold. Okay, threshold is a way to find final edge points from first derivative edge detectors, such as the Sobel. So if we are applying Sobel kernel, Sobel operator, then we can apply some thresholds. Then we can select edge points. But LOG is not using thresholds. So what is it using instead? So I mean, this process from LOG to extract edge points to make this kind of edge image. What do we have to do? Okay, so have you, anybody remember? No? Have you heard about zero crossing? Do you remember zero crossing? Yeah. So in this case, we are using zero crossing kind of approach, not a kind of any complicated algorithm, right? So because of the property of the basic concept of LOG, instead of threshold, we can just select zero crossing points, and they are becoming edges. Okay, so this is the usage of LOG to find edge point. Okay, it was the original purpose of LOG. By the way, in Swift algorithm, we are using LOG kind of image, but we are not using the edge point itself. So we don't do zero crossing. So whenever we talk about LOG, that is the second image. Okay, not the third one, not edge itself. Okay, we are just using original pure LOG image. This kind of gray, not gray image, but gray based kind of image that include the LOG response value, not edge points. Is that clear? Okay. So instead of edge, we are using different concept of extrema over scale space. So we'll discuss about it later. Okay. Yeah. So by the way, in terms of LOG, by the way, LOG is using Gaussian, the Laplacian of Gaussian. The Laplacian of Gaussian means we have to apply second derivative to Gaussian function. By the way, Gaussian function itself is a very complicated function. So to generate, let me show you the formula for Gaussian. Oh, it's in this page. So for two-dimensional space, so this is the Gaussian function. So to generate the LOG kernel, so we have to apply second derivative to this function. So we have to generate this kind of kernel. Okay, LOG kernel. So by the way, this computation is very expensive. So they are using this new concept of DOG. Okay, so DOG means difference of Gaussian. Instead of considering complicated Laplacian of Gaussian, so just DOG means we just apply Gaussian filtering to the same image with different sigma value. For example, I have one Gaussian, it is not so much blur, and I have another Gaussian image, Gaussian filtered image, with a little bit more blurred image. Then we are just subtracting these two images. Then as a result of this subtraction, we can have this kind of DOG image. Okay. By the way, as a result, this DOG image is very similar to the LOG image. So they are finally using DOG instead of LOG image. Okay, but basically the information of DOG is almost just same as LOG. The concept is the same. Just for the convenience and the efficiency of calculation, they are using DOG. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so this slide is showing the comparing the Laplacian of Gaussian LOG and DOG. Their corners looks almost the same, so their H&S response image is almost the same. Okay, so from now we are going to use DOG. Okay, so based on this LOG or DOG image, we now can try to extract extrema points. So extrema detection. So these extrema points are represented as tip points. So we are collecting just extrema tip points from the DOG image in scale space. So let's consider the scale space again. For example, we have one Gaussian image, original image, and we apply Gaussian image. Then we can have a little bit blurry image. Okay, and the next one, we apply one more Gaussian image. By the way, in this case, we are increasing the sigma. So do you understand the role of sigma parameter in Gaussian function? If we increase the sigma value, then what happens? The Gaussian function is becoming, yes, more blurred, right? So the Gaussian image is getting more blurred, right? So by increasing the sigma in this scale space, again, scale space, we are starting with the original image and a little bit more blurred with Gaussian, and with bigger sigma is getting more blurred, more and more blurred, right? So this stack of Gaussian, different Gaussian images is scale space. Okay, so in terms of DOG, now we have different levels of Gaussians, right? So by subtracting from the first one and second one, right? By subtracting like this, we can get DOG image. Between second and third one, we can have another DOG image. From third one and fifth one, we can have another DOG image. Blah blah blah. Okay. So for example, if we have the scale space of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Gaussian images with different sigma, okay, then by subtracting every levels, so we can generate four DOG images. Is that clear? Okay, so once we have this stack of DOG images, then we select 3 of them first, from the first one, second one, and third one. So we consider this every 3 different levels. Okay, so for every point in the DOG image, we are So when we have this center point, right? So around every point in BOG image, we are looking at the neighboring pixels, right? So in the same BOG image, for one point, we have 8 neighboring pixels. Is it clear? And then for the same position, we are looking at the lower BOG image and upper BOG image. And we also collect the corresponding neighboring pixels. So for example, for lower BOG image, for the current position, we can collect 9, 3 by 3, 9 neighboring pixels. And upper BOG image, we can collect 9 neighboring pixels. So totally, how many neighboring pixels can we have in these 3 levels of BOG images? 27. Okay, so excluding the current position itself, right? We need neighboring pixels, right? So it is becoming 27. Is that correct? Actually, yeah, including myself itself, right? Including itself, the current axis itself, right? Position itself. We can consider 27 neighboring pixels. Okay, so we know. So actually, this kind of neighboring, calculation is done per every pixel. So from current pixel position in the center. 24. What is 24? Okay, so let me answer your question. So from current pixel, okay, then we collect the neighboring pixels around, it is 8, right? And then lower BOG for the same pixel position, we can consider 3 by 3 area. So it is 9. So upper BOG 9. Okay, so 9, 9, 9, all becoming 27. Without the pixel itself, it's becoming 26, not 24. Is it clear? So by the way, for this extrema detection, we are considering, the pixel itself. So we can say we are looking at, the 27 pixels around current position, current pixel, every pixel. Is it clear? So this concept is called as local extrema. Here the local means this window, 3 by 3 for current DOG and 3 by 3 lower DOG, 3 by 3 upper DOG. So for these 3 layers of DOG images, we can consider local extrema, because we are looking at just 27 pixels around 1 pixel. Okay, so your question, how we move from the DOG images to the 3 images and black. Okay, so this is just an example, okay, just for explanation. Okay, so actually we may have more more layers of DOG. Okay, but in this example, now we have 4 different layers of DOG, right? Then from the bottom one, we select 1, 2, 3, because this local extrema is using 3 consecutive layers, DOG layers. Okay, so from the first 3 DOGs, okay, and then from the center DOG, we scan all the pixels. And we can check the local extrema. Once it's done, then we are moving up. So it means, let me change the color. Blue, okay. It means, we select, it's not, we are selecting from second, third, and fourth. So in this way, we are moving up one level. It means we are starting from layer 2 and 3 and 4. So they are making another 3 layers, right? So in the beginning, we start with layer BOG, layer 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so that is making 3 layers. Then we can try to extract extrema based on these 3 layers. Once it's done, we go up. So we are considering calculating use layer 2 and 3 and 4. So with 4 BOG layers, then we can consider 2 different levels of local extrema. Is that clear now? Okay, yeah. So for every 3 consecutive layers, so we are based on the center one, okay, in the middle one, we are scanning all the pixels and we are collecting 27 neighboring pixels. Okay, that is local extrema. So based on those collected 27 pixels of BOG, okay, when we say pixel here, it is BOG image already, right? So we compare the BOG value. So basically is kind of edge response, second derivative, edge response value. Okay, and among these 27 neighboring BOG value, we are checking if the center one, the current center value is larger than all other neighbors. So if center value is larger than other neighboring 26 values, this kind of condition to select local extrema. Okay, so we are looking at the center value. Okay, it can have some number, right? And comparing this value with all neighboring other 26 values. And by the way, sometimes the center value will be larger than all other neighbors, 26 values, but not always, right? In many cases, there may be some other value, like among other 26 value will be larger than the center one. Then that is not extrema, local extrema. But sometimes, not so often, but sometimes the center value is larger than all other 26 values. Then, just in that case, that position, that value, location is becoming local extrema. So what is the meaning of this process? So when center value is larger than all other 26 neighboring values, it means that the current position, the center position, is very special, right? Very unique, even over different, DOG, different scale level, just based on the 3 layers. Okay, so in this sense, we can say, oh, this point, this center point is a kind of important point we need to detect. So that is the basic concept of this process. Okay, so your question, if the center value is larger than other neighbors, so the center value is local extrema, yes. It should be larger than all other 26 values, not just some of them, okay? It should be larger than all others. When we say others, it means, all 26 values in this window, right? This green dot. It means the neighboring pixels across, 3 layers of DOG. Okay, so when it is larger than all others, it means it is very special point. So it is becoming local extrema. Yes. Is that clear? So that's why we call this as local features. Local, not global, right? So just local. So we are just looking at this small area, 3 by 3, just 27 pixels, to consider the local extrema. Okay. Okay, so that is the main concept of local extrema. Okay, so we are collecting all the local extrema. Again, not all, we don't have so many, for example, if we, in terms of the resolution of the image, if we have 1 million pixels, right? But the local extrema can be very small, not many, points as local extrema. Okay, so we can collect several hundred positions. So they are becoming key points. Okay, so your question, local extrema may be on any images from the 3 images. Actually, it is based on the middle one. So when we are, okay, so in this, okay, let's go back to this example. When we have 4 DOG, okay, levels, okay, then from this 4 DOG, we can consider 2 3-layer combination, right? 1, 2, again, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 layers, okay, to consider local extrema, to calculate local extrema. Once it's done, okay, once we have collected local extrema from this 1, 2, 3 layers. In this case, it is based on the layer 2. Okay, so based on the layer 2, we scan all the pixels and we compare layer 1 and layer 3. Okay, once it's done, and then we move up and we calculate using layer 2, 3, and 4. And then layer 3 is becoming the center, middle, right? And then we are scanning the layer 3 again, and then extract local extrema again. So this concept is very important. So, local extrema can be selected from different layers. Okay. So for example, some local schema were selected from layer 2. Some local schema can be selected from layer 3. So when we say key points, so the result of this local instead of the collected local schema is key point, right? So when we say key points, they have different key point has different level, scale level when they are detected. Okay, some of them from layer 2, some of them can be from layer 3. So in this example, we have just 2 different scale level. 2 layer 3, 2 and layer 3. So when we are saving the key points, we are storing the scale level number as well. Okay, so we'll discuss about the level issue, scale issue later. So in this way, for example, this key point is collected from some lower scale. Okay, this key point is, another key point is detected from upper scale. Okay, so in this way we can remember and consider the scale of every key point. In which scale are they detected from? Okay, that is also kind of extra information for key point. So we have to store this level again, layer number or scale level kind of information together with every key point. Okay, so is that clear now? So in this example, again, we can have 2 different scale level. Okay, so it is interesting, in the beginning we had 5 Gaussian images. We started with 5 Gaussian images, and DOG we had just 4 DOGs, and finally we have actually two layers, 2 scale levels for key points. Is that clear? Okay, so let me answer your question. Why are we using DOG but not OG? Okay, so again, as we have discussed earlier, LOG and DOG, the value, the result image, the gray H response image are the same, not exactly the same, but almost the same. Okay. So by the way, LOG calculation is more complicated. So because we have to do convolution, right? So we have to make the LOG corner, and we have to apply convolution with the corner. So by the way, the convolution processing is relatively time consuming. So instead of that kind of LOG convolution, the DOG, it means just subtraction of 2 Gaussian images, 2 different level of Gaussian images. So that calculation is much faster. Okay, so that's why they are using DOG. Okay, so isn't that a very expensive test to do all this pyramid image subtraction? Yes. So this process, we have to construct the pyramid, and we have to subtract, and we have to calculate the local extrema. Yeah, so I agree, this process of feature extraction is kind of very expensive, task. It's not a kind of simple task. It takes kind of long time. Okay, but even though it is a kind of expensive task, but still the advantage is we can get very strong feature, very invariant feature. So this, in terms of this kind of efficiency or expensiveness, right? Calculation, there are some new advanced invariant features, such as SURF or some binary invariant features. They are much faster than SIFT. Again, SIFT was a kind of very early version of invariant feature, so they show the possibility of scale invariant local features. So since then, it was like, again, it's been like more than 10 years, right? It was like 2004. So since then, many researchers have studied more and more, and they developed, much faster, algorithms. Make sense? Yeah. So as you mentioned, as for real-time application, so it is not so much useful. So it is the SIFT itself is not appropriate for real-time calculation. So we are using recently. We are using some much faster invariant features, the much view versions. But still, from my experience, still invariant features, because to make it invariant, you still need lots of computation. So it's not enough for real-time calculation. It depends on the speed of the hardware, but still basically they are not enough, fast enough. I have just one slide for SURF. There's a kind of variation, a newer version of SIFT, but we are not looking into SURF itself very in detail like SIFT, because it takes too much time. Okay, and there are many other variations as well. Okay, yeah, SURF is kind of the next version of SIFT. Okay, yeah, let's discuss about it more later. Any other question? Okay, so this is the basic process, to calculate the key point. Okay, so I think we'd better have a break. Okay, so let's have 10-minute break, and let's continue. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have discussed about the basic step for key point detection using the scale space. Okay. By the way, on top of this basic scale space and DOG kind of stuff, we have one more step of octave. Okay, one more concept of octave. So in this picture, so at the bottom layer, we can see one scale, different scales of Gaussian. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Gaussian images. From these 5 Gaussian images, we could calculate the local estima, I mean key points, for two different scale layers, right? 5 is becoming 2 layers, finally. Okay? And then, once it's done, then we can make another octave. Here the octave means, one octave means, set of the certain, same physical resolution of images. So we are shrinking the image once more. And so simply saying, scale down the image and construct the scale space image stack again, pyramid again. Okay. Then with the small Gaussian images, we are calculating the local extrema again. Okay. So it is kind of, instead of just applying Gaussian, so we are creating like, one octave of images, and then physically resize the image and do the scale space local extrema again based on the resized image. So this is called as octave. Okay, so this is not theoretically we don't need to do that, but this is kind of just practical kind of process. Okay, so let me okay, so what is not clear for octave? Okay, one octave means the Gaussian scale space with one size, one resolution of. For example, we are starting with original image size, right? So we are just, without changing the size, the resolution dimension of the image, we just apply Gaussian multiply. Okay? Once it's done, as in this example, we generated 5 Gaussians. And then the next step is to scale down the image physically. Okay? And then we are doing the same thing. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, I'm sorry. So I think the server was, disconnected for a few minutes. Okay, sorry. Okay, so yeah, so we were talking about the octave, right? So yes, in the first octave we have 5 images with the same size. So when we change, so simply saying, when we change the size, it is becoming a new octave. So this is not a kind of, general term, okay? So just this paper and this algorithm is using the concept of octave. Okay, octave is basically coming from, music, right? So they applied this word for this case. So images will be more blur and smaller than the previous 5 images. Okay, so in the second octave, okay, we are starting, yeah, so image is getting smaller and getting more blur. Okay. By the way, when we move to the second octave, okay, so we are starting with the when we generate the second octave, smaller image, it is coming from the original image, not from the, the Gaussian, last Gaussian image. Okay, just shrinking the size of the original image and starting the Gaussian blurring again on top of that. Okay, we just shrink, scale down with the image, and then Gaussian blurring. Clear? Okay, thank you. So, okay, so by the way, so let's consider, this case. Okay, so for first octave, in this picture, the left balls, it's like basketballs, right? So we have big basketballs, 3 big basketballs. So this is one octave. We are starting from first Gaussian image of the big ball. Okay, the first one on the left. So it means we apply the Gaussian function to the original image I with sigma. So sigma can be, any value, right? Sigma, 1.2, whatever. Okay, and in the first octave, the same octave, we make the next Gaussian image, G K sigma. Now sigma is multiplied by K. Here K is larger than number 1. Okay, it means the K sigma is becoming larger. Okay, so finally the sigma part is becoming larger, so we expect more blurred image. Okay, and then the third image, we are multiplying K once more, so it is becoming K squared sigma. So in this way, so this is kind of, the way. Oh, okay, so when we just roughly say we are applying Gaussian with bigger sigma, again, and bigger to make it more blur, right? Then how much bigger do you want? So this is kind of formulation to determine, how to make the, more blurred image using Gaussian function. So if we multiply K again and again, so when K is larger than number 1, then this number is getting bigger, right? So in this way, we can very regularly, very bigger and bigger Gaussian sigma. So we can expect more blur and blur and blur in a kind of very regular way. Okay? So in that sense, for the first image, we start with just sigma. Second image, multiply k one time. Third image, multiply k one more. And if we have fourth one, we will multiply k once more. So it is becoming k power 3 sigma. Okay? So in this way, sigma term is getting bigger, bigger, bigger. So the image is getting blurred, 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 blurred. Okay? So in one octave. Okay? By the way, when we move to the second octave, on the right side here, and the ball is getting smaller because the image has been scaled down. Okay? Then what kind of sigma do we have to apply, right? So actually, in terms of Gaussian, it's not exactly the same, but normally when we compare these two first Gaussian image in two different octaves, when we scale down the physical dimension, resolution of the image, size of the image, then we roughly consider it is multiplied by the sigma is twice in terms of the bloodness of the image. So it's not exactly the same, but we are assuming, the scale down half size is becoming, same as 2 sigma function, Gaussian function, compared to the original sigma Gaussian function. Does that make sense? So, okay. So this is another one example for some detailed example. Let me show you some example. Okay. So when we are considering 3 by 3 by 3 kind of neighborhood to find the streamer, okay. So the lower layer is like DOG of based on Gaussian sigma. The next one is K sigma. The third one is becoming K square sigma. Okay, so this is kind of formulation. How much sigma we are actually increasing. Okay, so based on this formula, right? So the sigma again, okay, the last sigma of the first octave is supposed to be same as 2 sigma in the second octave. So that is the kind of assumption. Okay, so this is kind of formulation. So in that sense, the Ks actually S is starting from 0. So for the first Gaussian image, we are using K power 0. S is 0. Then it's becoming number 1. So it is just sigma. Okay. When S is 1, the next Gaussian is K. And the other S, the next one is K square, K power 3. In this way, S is increasing. Okay, so it means different levels of Gaussians. Okay, and let's say, S is the final level of Gaussian. So K power S means the last Gaussian factor, and that is actually multiplied to sigma. Then it is considered as the same as 2 sigma. Okay, so in that sense, we can make this kind of formula. So to have in the second octave, okay, if we are expecting, the scaling factor, scale down factor of 2, then we have this kind of formula. So k power s should be equal to scale ratio number 2. Then from this formula, we can determine, so the main reason so this is not a kind of, exact number. So this is kind of, approximate number using some kind of assumption. The assumption is, k power s is becoming scale number ratio 2 in the second octave, right? So from this formula, we can create number k. What kind of number k do we need to use in one octave, right? So k equals now becoming 2 power 1 over s from this formula, okay? So this is becoming the formula to determine the factor k. Make sense? So, for example, when s is 2, we have just 2 more layers, right? Then k should be 2 power 1 over 2. So it is becoming square root of 2. That is becoming the k. So from sigma, okay, we start from sigma, and the next Gaussian is becoming square root 2 sigma, and the next one is becoming 2 sigma. Okay, in this way, every different, Gaussian, level, we are multiplying square root 2 again and again and again. Okay, so k is determined by the base number 2 and number s. Okay, so the interval is s, number is s. So how many intervals do you want, right? So if you want, more intervals, then the number will be changed. We need the k will be a little bit smaller than square root 2. Okay, so in this case, we are expecting 2 layers. So we determine the number of s as 2. This is just an example. In practical, case, we may use different number s. So here, the interval in an octave s is representing the number of different, local extrema layers. So in this example, we are starting with Gaussian or 5 Gaussian layers. And then finally, we have 2 layers of local extrema, right? From 5, we can have 2 layers. So these 2 layers are considered as the interval of this octave. So it is determining the number s. Is it clear now? Okay. So by the way, I want 3 layers for local extrema calculation. Then you can set this number as 3. Then the k will be 2 power 1 over 3. Okay, so this is kind of formulation. Okay, so by the way, as for k, we can determine k with any number you want, right? But we need some kind of formula. So this is kind of approximation for the formula. Okay, and when we expect two intervals, so here interval again, the term interval in this case means the number of layers we are expecting for local extrema. Okay, so in this example, 2 layers, right? Then we have S interval. Then the number of images, Gaussian images we need in one octave is becoming S plus 3. It means we need 5 Gaussian images. Does that make sense? So from 5, we could generate two intervals. So again, intervals means the number of layers for local extrema. Okay? Yes. So 5 is becoming 2. If we start with 6, then S is becoming 3. Okay? So in this way, we can make this formula, S plus 3. Okay? So in this way, we can, generate, the formula for K and formula for, S, something like that. Okay? So it is kind of very, practical usage. Okay? In practice, when we are designing and programming, this kind of algorithm, then we have to determine some kind of rule and formula, right? So in this way, we can very easily set up and design this algorithm based on your requirements. Okay. Any other question? Okay, so there was a concept of octave. Okay, octave, and how we are increasing the sigma value, how we can determine the number of images and number of the interval. Yeah, so that kind of details, very detailed parts of this algorithm. Okay. Finally, now we can detect the key points. Now we can assume, we have very important key points. By the way, you have to remember every key point has its own scale layer, scale level number. Some key points are coming from the first interval. Some features are coming from the second interval of first octave. Some features are coming from the first interval of octave. Okay, but in this way, we can have different layer for different key points. Okay, so you have to remember that. So this picture is showing an example of key points for the sample picture. So we can see just a few, considering the number of pixels, right? So we can have just a few, like some hundreds of key points detected. Okay. By the way, for every key point, now we have key points, right? But for every key point, the next step is to calculate the descriptors, right? So before we calculate the descriptor, what we have to do first is to determine the orientation of every key point. For example, if so there should be a way, for example, for every key point, this is a key point detected. So now you have to determine the direction of the key point. So normally, for any point in an image, how can you determine the direction of the key points? What is the general way? Or if somebody asks you, I want to know the angle or direction of the point, how can you calculate it? Eigenvector. Yeah, well, it may take a, or anything else? The eigenvector also can be used, but it looks like a little bit too much, I mean, complicated. So what about h direction? Have you considered, h direction of the point? So if we know the h, right, h value, right, then we can calculate h direction. Okay. So in this algorithm, by using h direction, h angles, okay, so we can calculate the direction, or in other words, the orientation. It means just simply angle, right? So the angle of every key point. So for example, when we have this kind of image, like left side black, right side white, right? So what is the angle of this key point? How can you guess the angle of this key point? Degree? How much degree of the left one? Normally, it is when we are talking about the angle of pixel, it is considered to be, from dark to bright direction. So from black to white. Not exactly black to white, but from dark side to the bright side, bright pixel. So this angle is becoming 0 instead of 180. Okay? Yeah. By the way, on the right side, the angle can be like this direction, okay, from black to white. So it can be a kind of, a negative 40, minus 45, just for example. Okay? So this is the orientation of key points for certain, center key points, right? By the way, to determine this angle reliably, instead of just looking at the center point itself, we'd better consider the surrounding, textures as a window. Okay, then it can be more. It may not be too sensitive to noise, so it can be more reliable. Okay, so using this method, so this slide is explaining, how to calculate the edginess and the angle theta using very general, edge angle kind of formula, right? So I believe you already know this concept. So are you familiar to this kind of angle calculation for edge? Is it okay? Yeah. So actually, this kind of formula coming from general edge angle calculation. So even using very simple Solver operator, so we can calculate the edge using this arc tangent function. Okay, so it means it is calculating the x direction, x horizontal edginess and vertical edginess, and then arc tangent of these two values, we can calculate the angle of this edge. We can get the angle. Okay, so that is the basic way to calculate angle of every point. Okay, so let me skip okay, let me go back to okay, here. Okay, so first of all, based on this base concept of orientation and angle of every point. Okay, so again, if we just consider the angle of just the key point itself, then sometimes the key point position may have some noise, right? So it is not good. So instead of just looking at the point, just one point, we are looking at the surrounding pixels or surrounding pixels and try to make a histogram, a very simple histogram of the angles. For example, in this circular area surrounding neighborhood of the front, key points, some pixels may have the degree in this region, like between 0 and like some degree. Here, okay? So some pixels may have the angle in this region. Okay, some pixels may have this angle, because when we are looking at the neighborhood, right? So different pixels can have different angles, right? But there should be some dominant angle, okay, that has the maximum number of angle range, right? Similar angle like around 90 degrees in this case, for example. Then 45 degrees, okay, for example. Then the direction, the orientation of these key points can be determined using this dominant angle in this, angle histogram, degree angle histogram. Is that clear? So this is the way to determine the dominant direction or dominant orientation of every key point. So this here, the orientation means the angle of the key point. So the main approach is, calculating the dominant, orientation using the angle histogram. So we are just selecting the maximum histogram, angle, beam number as the dominant orientation of the key points. Is that clear? So finally, for every key point, we have this information: x, y, the position of the key point, and scale. Here, the scale is what is scale in this case? That is the interval, scale interval number, okay? The layer number where, this key point was extracted, okay? So that this information has been, calculated when we are detecting the key point, okay? On top of that, we add orientation. So every key point is composed of these 4 values: x, y, scale number. Actually, the scale means the number of the level, okay? And then orientation angle. Orientation, by the way, this orientation is actually the number of this beam. So for example, when we are creating this angle histogram, the first 0 beam, 1, beam number 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are representing the orientation as a beam number. For example, number 1. So orientation can be 1, or sometimes it can be 2. Okay. So because we cannot represent the angle as like 360, too much detail, right? So instead of that, we are making a histogram of beams. So every beam of this histogram represents certain period, like from 0 angle to 10 or to 45, something like that. Is that clear? So this is becoming the final key point information. So this angle, dominant angle calculation, orientation calculation is used to make this feature when we are calculating the descriptor. So to calculate, rotation invariant feature, we are using this key point orientation. So we'll see how it can be used. Okay. So finally, when we know the key point orientation in this way, for example, in this example, it is 45 degrees of orientation, right? Then, once we know this orientation, we are making a kind of window around these key points that is rotated 45 degrees. And we try to calculate the descriptor in this rotated region, rotated window. Okay, so that's the way we make this, descriptor rotation invariant. It means when the whole image is rotated, this direction, orientation of key point is actually following the image rotation. So now, for example, the orientation of this key point is 45 degrees. By the way, if we rotate the whole image 45, then this rotation is becoming, the angle of orientation of key point is becoming 90 degrees. Okay, but the relative angle is still 45. Okay, so if we know this key point orientation, and then if we rotate the window like this, then this area, window area, is always the same, even when the image is rotated. So it means, we can know how much angle, we have to rotate this window rectangle. If the key point orientation is becoming 90, then we have to rotate this window 90 degrees. If it is 45, we have to rotate 45. Even though the angles are changing by rotating the image, but the relative local rotation is not changing. Is that clear? So that's why we are calculating the orientation of every key point. Okay, so from now, we'll try to calculate the key point features. Okay, and you have to remember, whenever we say calculating the key point inside this, grid window, it is always rotated first. And then, based on this rotated window, we try to calculate the internal information, data. Okay, so once it is rotated, so this is the window showing the basic approach to calculate the descriptor. So inside every window, again, they might have been rotated according to the key point orientation. Okay, so inside this window area, so here the center position is the key point location. Okay, and then we make this kind of neighborhoods. Actually, it is not just like 3 by 3 or 5 by 5. This is much bigger than 3 by 3. Okay, so for all the neighboring window points, we are calculating the angles. This is another angle, edge angle, again, edge angle for descriptor calculation. It is different from key point orientation calculation. The second step for descriptor, not key point orientation. Okay, so we are calculating more detailed orientation of every pixel around current key point. Then we generate histogram again, more detailed histogram to describe this key point. And finally, these histogram values are becoming descriptors. So this is the basic concept of the descriptor calculation for SIP. Okay, so we'll discuss the detail later together. Okay, so let me. So finally, in this paper, they are actually using this very big window around key points. Here we have the center position is the key point, and around this key point, we are calculating 16 by 16 neighboring pixels, actually. And then, for this 16 by 16 region, rectangle, we are dividing this 16 by 16 to 4 by 4. Okay, so it is divided into 4 by 4 cells. So how many pixels, every cell include? $16. Yes, exactly, 16, right? So first cell has 16 pixels. Second cell has another 16. Okay, so for every cell for 16 pixels, we are calculating the angle of every pixel using the edge angle calculation. Then we construct a histogram. So here the histogram means we divide the angle into several bins of histogram, so we can have this kind of histogram, right? So this on the right side, the key point descriptor here, this is representing the histogram. So every cell, 4 by 4 cell, every cell includes this kind of histogram. So here the histogram is describing every different of few important angle bins. So they have different size, right? The arrow has different size. So the size of this arrow means the size of every bin of the histogram. So how many same angles are existing inside one cell? Okay? So do you understand the concept of histogram of angles? Is that clear to you? Good. Yeah. So if it's not clear, sometimes it's confusing, right? But no. So every period of angle, right? So we are accumulating the number of the same angle, similar angles, right? So that's the histogram. Okay. So every cell is representing certain number of bins of histogram, right? So we can define, how many division, how many bins do we want for this angle, right? So in this paper, they are actually using 8 bins for 8 bins for this histogram. So it means we are dividing the angle into 8 regions, 8 periods. Okay, so 4 by 4 cells. Every cell has 8 numbers. So 8 bins means that in histogram, every bin can have some value, right? So it is 8 number. So finally, one key point can have 128 values, numbers. So this is becoming the feature vector. Okay, that is called as descriptor. By the way, in terms of implementation, you can define different number of cells. For example, if you want a bigger cells, right? So you can define like, oh, I want to use instead of 4x4, I want to use 5x5 cells. And oh, in terms of bins, I don't want to use 8 bins. I want to use 10 bins, or I want to use 16 bins, right? So in that sense, you can use different parameters. Then you may have different size of vector descriptor. No. So your question is, 8 angles for each bin? No. So here 8 means number of bins. So 8 means number of bins. By the way, every bin means period of angles. Okay, so the whole angle can be between 0 and 360. Right? So we divide 360 by 8. That can be the period of angle period of every bin. Does it make sense? Okay? Yeah. Yeah, so you can define different number of bins, right? According to your implementation. But this is the standard one. Standard zip is using 8 bins. So finally, every descriptor of every key point can have 128 numbers of vector. Okay, so by adding, simply more exactly saying, by concatenating all the 8888 cell values, it is becoming 128 numbers. And that is, so finally, that is becoming the descriptor. Okay, so in the first image you can see, okay, so based on this dominant key point orientation, we are rotating this window like this based on this rotation. Okay, and then on top of this rotated window, okay, it is 16 by 16, 16 by 16 pixel window surrounding the key point. Okay, then we can generate this 128 dimension of descriptor. Yes, we are using 8 orientation. So here 8 orientation means, every orientation means certain period or range of angles. Okay, so this is standard. Okay, but again, you can change the parameter, when you are implementing the descriptor by yourself. Okay. Any question? I think that's all for today, and we'll discuss a little bit more next class, and we'll move to the next topic. So basically, this is almost everything about invariant feature. I mean, especially state feature. So detection, key point detection using state space of DOG images. Okay, and local is 2 now. Okay, and then we calculate the descriptor for every key point, and the descriptor, every descriptor has 128 dimension based on 4x4 cell and 8 orientations, 8 beams of angles, and the histogram. Okay, So your question is, can we use more orientation? Yes. But if you are using standard library or the standard code, this is the their implementation. They found out this is the best kind of configuration. But you still can, if you are implementing by yourself, okay, so you can use the more orientation like 10 or 12 or 16. Okay, in that sense, it means you are describing the feature more in detail. Okay, yes, but using less number of orientations, it is getting more cores, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other question? Okay, almost done. Okay, so detection and description. So in this way, these kind of descriptors are becoming definitely, very straightforwardly becoming rotation invariant, right? Because we have rotated this window based on the key point orientation, right? So even though the image is rotated, the local orientation is following the rotation. So the information we can get from this rotated rectangle is supposed to be same. Okay, so this is making it rotation invariant. And it can be scale invariant, right? Because we extracted this information based on the scale space of DOG. So we have considered, multiple level scales. So basically we can say we are collecting these key points from several, different levels of scale, right? So when we change the scale of the image, so the key points are overlapping in terms of scale, right? So it is getting more scale invariant than other features. But definitely it is more expensive calculation than the corner kind of Harris corner kind of features. Okay, but still one good thing is some modern version of these invariant features are much faster than this. Okay, we discussed about them briefly. No, that's done. Okay, so that's all for today. Any other questions? So let's discuss a little bit more next class. Let's continue. And actually, okay, so I think this week we could have just one class. Okay, so next week I will continue, and again I will arrange one more class the next week. Okay, that's all. So actually, there is one assignment for today. You mean? I think we'd better, actually I prepared an assignment for this topic of invariant features, but I think we'd better, assign this one next class, next week, because we haven't finished, almost done. So this is the, assignment for today, but, it's not so much urgent. So let's do that next week. Okay. I will change the deadline again. That's it. Is that clear? Okay. So no assignment, no test for today. Okay, let's discuss about the test next week. So basically, the assignment is to experiment with 3 different types of features. That is corner, see if can solve. Okay, so you can see the description if you want from the slides. Okay, any other final question? Good. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, and yeah, have a nice weekend, and see you next week, next class. Thank you.